I thought this week's discussion post was kind of interesting. It basically asks, why is it important to be able to debug code? Debugging code is when you find error, then there's an error with your code and the ability to correct that error. I want to kind of expand on that further because it kind of took me aback. That's one of those questions you think, why is it important to correct errors? Because if you didn't correct the error, it would be broken forever? I'm not sure. So I kind of want to expand on that a little bit and say, part of the reason it's important to learn to be able to step through and debug code is because the code's not always yours. Sometimes you're called along to correct something that doesn't necessarily belong to you. You don't know the ins and outs of it, and you have to kind of dig at it to figure out what was going on. Once upon a time, there were coders that would try to make their code so complex that only they would understand it, so that way they would never be fired from a job, and then they were let go anyway, and then people had to just kind of drum through what was left and try to figure it out. Now we've kind of changed, and well, it's really the standard, that you try to make your code as easy to understand for the next guy so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time this comes along. And as a result, if you run into problems, the ability to debug and step through your individual code or somebody else's code to make the correction is huge, because sometimes you can't see what a problem is, but when someone comes along behind you, they point out, oh, it's this. And you're like, oh, I've spent 3 hours looking at this. My brain, right? But that happens a lot. Additionally, what you have to remember is not all errors are created equal. There are some errors that you're typing along, you make a syntax error, and it says, oh, syntax error doesn't work, blah, 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 and then you fix it. And then there's also some errors where as you're going along, it works perfectly fine, but when you run it, it breaks down, and then you have to, that's kind of a runtime error, and that means that you have to figure out what you did wrong, which you don't know about it until runtime, and you find it where that's concerned. And then the last, which I think is kind of one of the most troubling errors, is when you run into a logic error. In a logic error, the easiest definition of a logic error is 1 plus 1 equals 3. That means it works perfectly fine, but the way it works is not what you intended. A great example, one of my classes, they're building apps. And the app is just a ball-moving app. And one of it is that you go like this, and the ball's supposed to move in the direction of the angle. You go like this, and the ball's supposed to move in the other direction of the angle, depending upon what the app is. But the app itself, the way it returns the coordinates is, when you go like this, it returns a positive coordinate, so it actually wants to, it's hard to do this in reverse, it actually wants to run uphill, so you have to reverse it. Well, some students weren't reversing it, so when it would go like this, the ball would travel up that way, or rather up this, I don't know. It got me reversed. But basically, if it was, here, it was like this is much better, and I go like this, it'll actually travel up this way, as opposed to down like it was supposed to. It works. It doesn't work as you intended. That's almost like you do like this, and then it travels sideways. Because of the fact that that's a logic error, works perfectly fine, but it doesn't exactly work the way you want it to. So kind of keep that in mind as you go through. Give me your feedback, what you think about that. Well, not what I said, but give me your own information, and keep in mind that they wouldn't ask the question if some people couldn't do it. A lot of times people scrap and start over, but sometimes you can salvage existing code and work at it from there. All right, thank you very much.